welcome back to our Wednesday class. And we're going to talk, we finished Ephesians, and we're going to talk about some couple of standalone topics before we get into something else. But today I want to talk about moving. And I know where we've been in the last months and months, maybe over almost a straight year now, has been this idea, this place where we've kind of gotten comfortable and we've been still. Things are canceled and we quarantined and we've sat still, and maybe it's time that we start thinking about moving. What does it mean to move? You've been in one reality for so long, you kind of accept that as what it is, and we may have to accept the reality, but in that reality doesn't mean we have to settle in it. So tonight I really want to talk about this understanding that it is good and needed to move. And what does that do with our faith? Not just physically getting up, but moving. What is your faith moving you to do? And we're talking about our faith. What does that take to move? For me, we're going to talk about just a few short things, and then we'll be in the book of 1 Kings to look at one of my favorite people in the Bible. But I want you to realize that it takes one day at a time. God is giving you only one day at a time. He's never asking you to figure things out for a year, for a lifetime. He's only going to say, I'm going to give you one day at a time. Can you deal with one day at a time? Can you trust me for this one day at a time? Can you serve me in this one day? And in my faith, I think that's helped me to understand that I don't have to do it all the time, forever, or figure out the whole plan. The plan is trust God. And so I hope that as you go through your faith, God is saying, just trust me today. And can you do that today? And can you do that tomorrow? And if he wakes you up tomorrow, then can you do that then? He's asking you just to do that one time. Before I get out of bed, as soon as I wake up and before I get out of my bed in the morning, there's a short prayer I pray. It's just very short, and maybe this is something you want to add to the practice of your faith. But I just pray simply, God, give me the strength to serve you today. That's it. And then I get up. Because I know that that's all I need. I don't need it for tomorrow yet because it's not here. I just need it today. And things are so overwhelming, and we can get to that point. But if we just ask God for strength today, he's going to give it to us. And that's how faith works. It's overwhelming. And when you think about serving in God and being faithful to him and devoting your life to him, that sounds overwhelming. But if you realize and you add the phrase, just for today. Can I do this just for today? Yeah. Can I do this in this hour? Yes. Can I serve God in this moment? Can I follow Jesus right now in what I'm doing and what I'm focusing on and what my mind is worried about? Can I just give that to him? Yeah. And so these are the continual moments in your faith with God and saying, I don't have to do it all. I have to do the small things continually in each moment. It means I have to make the right choice this second, this minute, this hour. And if you didn't make the right choice in those minutes and seconds and hours, then you ask God, hey, God, I need your help to get back to making those choices in the right way. I need your forgiveness for messing up in those moments. I need to trust you again and know you've forgiven me and know you want me to come back and continue to serve you. Give me the strength to serve you today. About a year ago, exactly, almost give or take a day, we came back from Honduras, and I miss Honduras a lot. But I made a decision, and it had nothing to do with Honduras. It just made a decision to do with my habits, and I said, I was 40 days away from being 40, and I said to myself, because that sounds cool. So 40 days, 40 till you turn 40. So I said, I'm going to do a couple things. Number one, I'm going to stop drinking soda. I didn't drink a lot of soda. I used to when I was your age. I probably drank 5 or 6 Mountain Dews a day. It was terrible. I've moved past that habit, but it was a part of what I was doing. So, and I'm not if you're drinking soda, this isn't I'm not trying to convince you to make your own choice. I'm just telling you what I needed to do for me and what I wanted to accomplish. So we know it's not the best for us. So I decided I'm gonna quit cold turkey one day. As soon as we get back from Honduras, no more soda. And I did. And I thought, I don't know if I could do that. But I knew I could do that in one day. I could quit this one meal. And I wouldn't drink Dr. Pepper with lunch. I'm gonna get water. So made one decision. And then I made another decision at dinner. I made another decision the next day. And these small choices of one thing at a time, one day at a time, I realized a couple days ago, man, I've gone a whole year with no soda. Obviously, I feel better. I'm glad I did that. I'm continuing to do that. I don't miss it, is what I found out. And these small little choices, the more you make them in your faith of, hey, I'm going to just do this today. I'm going to not do this today because it hurts my faith. And you make that choice over and over and over again, and you start seeing this difference of, I don't miss these things that were hurting my faith that I said no to over and over again. I decided one day I'm going to continue to do that. And I chose God one day at a time. Choose to be in the relationship with Him. I choose to be committed to Him and let Him use me to serve Him every day. I choose to let Him show me opportunities to talk to people about God, to be an example and a light, to say, you know what, I'm going to post this scripture. I'm going to send an encouraging text to somebody. I'm going to check on somebody. I'm going to spend time purposefully reading and studying. I'm going to pray for people on purpose because I want to do that and God is asking me to do that. I'm going to make these small choices for Him one day, one choice at a time. And that's what I hope you see. Faith needs to be consistent. It needs to be a consistent choice in your life. Know why you're choosing it and don't compromise. Man, there was a lot of times I wanted a soda. And there's still a few times I look at a cold Dr. Pepper and I say, man, I really want to drink that. But then I realized, no, you don't. Because it'd probably make you throw up at this point. It'd make me sick not having it for so long. And that's our choice with temptation and things that we face in battle. And we say, man, I really want this. And we may have a desire for it. But do you want Jesus more? Because you've already chosen Him. And if that's the case, nothing really is appealing to us. There's nothing we're willing to not give up because of who Jesus is and what He means to us. So He wants you to make this choice, but then He wants you to stick with it. It's not a one-time choice to say, okay, I'll get baptized. If that didn't lead to this life of transformation, a daily transformation of this choice, Jesus over everything else, and I hope you start that habit of choosing God more than anything else, that He is seen to be important to you by what you're doing, what you're choosing. The other choice I made was 40 days till I turned 40 pull-ups a day. And that's, it just sounded cool. And then I realized how hard that is to do 40 pull-ups a day for 40 days. And I started that process and I got, one or two done at a time. And I thought, man, this is hard. It's harder than I thought, but I'm not going to quit because I decided I'm going to do this. And, one or two at a time turned into 5 at a time, turned into 10 at a time. And I got to 40 days, I got to 40 a day. And I continued that. And I'm glad because I needed to continue to exercise what I had built up able to do. If I just quit and said, okay, I got there, and I'm going to stop. And that's maybe where we got with our faith. And then this hit, and then we said, I don't feel like faith. I don't feel like exercising it. I don't feel like practicing it. I don't feel like continuing to strengthen it. And you stop. How strong and how long is it going to last till you're no longer strong at all? If I quit doing those, I'd have to start from the bottom. And maybe that's where you are. And you need to start over. You need to move. And so I encourage you, get to moving today. One day at a time. You stay consistent. But you have to continue to do that or you lose the strength you've gained. So here's the second point about moving. Faith doesn't just need to be consistent, it needs to be exercised. This means God doesn't want you to just have a faith. He wants you to use your faith in your life. This is a strength to you. Every time you use your faith to fight temptation, to stand up to peer pressure, to overcome challenges, to go to the Bible as a source of wisdom and strength and guidance, you're going to find it easier to use every time. It's going to be easier to say no to temptation, to go say no to your friends about peer pressure, to say, you know what, that's what culture is doing, that's not what I'm doing because that's not helping my faith. I'm going to go to Scripture and God in prayer for my strength instead of the world and its wisdom and my friends who may or may not care what God says or know what God says. I'm going to go to God first, and it becomes a strength. And if we continue to exercise that type of strength, you're going to find it easier to use. And it's going to be this consistent, exercised faith that brings you closer to God and that you choose to exercise. If you have your Bible, we're going to go look at 1 Kings chapter 19 as we end. And I want you to think about Elijah. I love Elijah because chapter 19 of 1 Kings, he's a guy that's doing the job that God called him to do as a prophet, but he's doing it and he feels real alone in that, and he says that to God. Look at chapter 19. He's got a king after him that he's delivered bad news, and this isn't just a bad king, this is like the worst king, and he's out to kill him. So Elijah's facing his entire army, his wife Jezebel, and that's their mission in life, is to kill Elijah, to make sure he dies. In chapter 19 verse 3 it says Elijah was afraid and he runs for his life. And he gets to this point in his journey in the wilderness, and he comes to this bush and he sits down, he prays so that he might die. And here's what he says: I've had enough, Lord. Take my life. I'm no better than my ancestors. And he laid down, fell asleep, and he wanted to die. And maybe that's, this whole situation is you've had enough and you're afraid. And Elijah's afraid and he's had enough and he's done moving. And he just lays there and says, I'm going to stay here until I die. I'm done. I'm not eating. I'm not drinking. I'm just going to die. People are trying to kill me anyway. I'll just make it easier. I hope you're never at that point, but if you ever get to the point where you say, I give up, here's what God does. He sends somebody to Elijah, and maybe he sends people to you, and it may not be like Elijah's story where he sends an angel, but people are asking you to move, to get up, to exercise your faith, to choose to make it consistent, even when you don't feel like it. Do it. And he says there's going to be a strength you're going to find. There's going to be a purpose in that of moving, to not sit still, to get up, Elijah, because I have a purpose for you. And he sends an angel in verse 5, and the angel woke him up and said, get up and eat. And he looked around, and there by his head was some bread and a jar of water, and he drank and he lay down again. And the angel woke him up a second time and said, get up and eat. The journey's too much for you. You've got to move, and fear had paralyzed him from moving. And maybe fear, this virus, has paralyzed us a little bit, and we don't want to move, we don't want to act. And God says, you still have faith. It needs to be active, it needs to be moving. Let's find a way to make it work and make it exercised and use it so you retain your strength. You don't feel like Elijah does, wanting to die, who's had enough. He says, look, second time, he gets up and he ate and he drank, and strengthened by that food, Elijah travels 40 days and 40 nights. I mean, that's pretty amazing. You could continue to travel 40 straight days on one meal, and he went to a cave and he spent the night. He says God is always willing to help us with these second chances, with these things that we need. with the strength that we need. That's why I pray that every morning. God, give me the strength to serve you today. And the word comes to him, verse 9. What are you doing here, Elijah? And God asked him this question 2 times. What are you doing here? He got up, he moved, he went a little bit. And he's in this cave again, and he's still depressed, and he's still fearful, and he still knows people are out to kill him, and he still has had enough. But he's moving. He's not sitting still. God is changing his mindset, and he asks him this question. What are you doing here, Elijah, like this? And he tells God, look, God, I've done all the things you've asked me to. I've been zealous for you. I've, haven't rejected your covenant. I've helped tear down false altars. All these things you've asked me to do, I did them. And now they're trying to kill me. And he says, I've had enough. Where are you? And God tells him to go stand on the side of this mountain, and all these things pass by him. An earthquake, a fire, gentle whisper. And finally, it says God is in the whisper. And Elijah heard it. And he pulls his cloak over his face, and he goes out and he stands at the mouth of the cave. And then the question comes again, what are you doing here, Elijah? And he says, again, I'm the only one left. I've done all you asked. Maybe you feel like you've had enough. Maybe you feel alone. Maybe you feel afraid. And I felt all these things, and maybe you have too. And maybe you've had enough. And God says, Elijah, you may not be seeing things the way you need to see them. And I want to change your mindset. And God says to him, verse 15, chapter 19, verse 15, go back the way you came. Go to the desert of Damascus. When you get there, you're going to anoint Hazael king over Aram, and also anoint Jeru, son of Nisham, king over Israel. Anoint Elisha, son of Shaphat from Abel, to succeed you as prophet. Jeru's going to put to death any who escaped the sword. Elisha's going to put to death any who escaped the sword of Jeru. Yet I reserve 7,000 in Israel, all whose knees have not bowed down to Baal, and whose mouths have not kissed him. He said, not only did you not realize I was there, and it may have been this gentle whisper that you weren't looking for and listening for that kept you from moving. Not only did you think you were alone and afraid, I'm going to give you people who are going to fight alongside you and help you with the task I've given you. And then I'm going to give you 7,000 people, Elijah, that you know nothing about and you thought didn't even exist. You were the only one. And the church is bigger than you and me, and it's worldwide. It's a body that is huge and moving, and God says, get up and move with it and be a part of that. So Elijah does that, and he finds Elisha. And Elisha's plowing his ox. That's what he's doing. He's a farmer, and he brings himself, and he goes and he throws his cloak around him. That's the sign that, hey, I'm anointing you, and you're going to take over my role as prophet. And Elisha, who's never met Elijah, left his ox. He ran after him, and he said, let me go say goodbye to my father and my mother, and I'm going to come back. He does that. And Elijah left him and went back. Look how verse 21, look at the end of this chapter, how it ends. He took his yoke of oxen, he slaughtered them. He burned the plowing equipment made of wood that ties the ox together, and he cooks meat of the oxen, and he gives it to the people, and they ate. And then he set out to follow Elijah and become his servant. What an awesome picture of moving and empowering other people to move. And Elisha he took his livelihood. There's no turning back from that. You don't have oxen and a plow to go back to farming. You've devoted it to God. You've sacrificed it for God. I don't know what you need to get moving, what it's going to take you to get up, to say, I'm not afraid. I do know God's with me. I have a faith I want to be consistent in, and I want to exercise my faith daily, and it's going to become my strength. It's going to help me to be strong for myself and strong for other people. And Elijah realized that. and he empowers Elisha, and they go on to do some amazing things. You keep reading this book, but he does that so he realizes who God is, that he's a God who wants us to move, to not sit still and say, I've had enough. He says, I've got more for you to do. Get up and move. And this year is coming, whether we like it or not, whatever it looks like, it's here. And I hope that you look at it with this attitude of, I'm going to move through it. No matter what it looks like, no matter what it needs, the challenges we have to overcome, we're going to overcome them. But I hope that we will do that with this attitude of a consistent faith. It's willing to be exercised, and one that trusts God to know he's always there, even if it's a whisper, even if you have to be still and listen, and then move. He doesn't want you to sit in fear, and he doesn't want you to sit in this attitude. He wants you to change your mindset about how you think about yourself. And he says, I've got things I need you to go and do powerfully. So I hope as we go through this that we will look at a few things before we jump into another long study. But I want you to be moving. Find a way to be consistent. What things are stealing your strength? What is draining on you that you may need to get rid of and say, this attitude or this person or this strength or this, maybe it's things you're consuming, things that are not asking you to move for God. They're keeping you crippled. And we'll talk more about that as we go forward. But I want you to move, and God wants you to move. He wants you to take your faith, make it consistent, choose it every day, just one day at a time. We can all do that. And trust God that he's going to help you in that day. Love you guys, and I hope you continue to study. Hope you continue to check on each other and continue to be closer to God as we go through each day.